Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. I'm going to try again to do a spread in my art journal. This is the one that I didn't put on Etsy because of the sewing, and I have done a few pages in it, but they have not turned out like I had hoped. So I'm hoping today goes a little bit better. As you can see, here is a sheet that I've done that I didn't finish. Here's another one. Maybe one day I'll go back and try to work on them again. I just have a couple pieces of cardboard here that I'm going to lay underneath my pages so that if I get too haphazard with my painting or whatever I'm using, that I don't get it on all my pages. As you can see, the right side has a shorter book page, so to make the larger side a little cohesive with that, I'm using some of this old dictionary, vintage dictionary, just gluing it down with some glue stick in random spots. I got this in a package from Rebecca Kaufman. There's a Facebook group called Junk Journal Swap and Sale, something like that. And she had tons of these vintage dictionary pages, and she sold them in a bundle, and I love them. They're so pretty, and so I'm just kind of tearing those and putting them in random spots on the larger side. I have some white acrylic paint here I'm just dabbing on. I like to use it instead of my gesso. It's kind of thick, so I'm just using this, but I use gesso often as well. I'm just kind of spreading it randomly on both pages. I have some mixed media cards here that I had made that I'm not very proud of. They did not turn out at all, but I didn't want to, throw them away, so I'm going to use them as collages in this art journal, thinking that, it's kind of a good base to create with. I'm just going to pick some colors that are close to the ones that are on those cards, at least colors that will semi-match. I'm going to tone it down a little bit with the white paint because the pink I've picked is a little bit bright. So I'm just trying to take my finger and blend those in a little bit to match the cards. I'm using a really pretty blue, I can't remember what it's called. I'm using acrylic paints, and the cards were done with watercolor, so that's why I'm not able to really match them. But I think in mixed media, you don't necessarily want exactly the same colors, just blendable, that way it's cohesive. And I think the different layers and the different kinds of media that you use, like the watercolor and the acrylic and stamping, the more you do, I think the better it looks. That's just my opinion. But I'm going to use this blue and kind of blend it around before I put on my journal card. I'm just going to give it a quick dry before I start adding on my journal cards. And I'm just going to randomly tear pieces. I like the looks of these two, so I'm just going to glue them down with my glue stick. This is a Pioneer glue stick. It's not my fave. I find I have to burnish it really well to make sure it stays. My favorite is probably the Oohoo or Yoo-hoo, however you say it, but I need to use this up, so I figure what better place than in my own art journal. And there's actually absolutely nothing wrong with the Pioneer glue stick. It's just my personal preference. There's a little bit of orange color on these cards, so I'm going to use a little bit of this orange gold acrylic just to try to pull that out a little bit more. I think it's really pretty. So I'm going to blend it with some white and play around a little bit. I actually think instead of adding more big splashes of color, I'm going to do some stenciling. So I've got this little flat, kind of hard brush here so that it will not spread out when I dab it onto my stencil. Hopefully stay in the spots that I'm trying to place it. So I'm just going to dab in random spots with my stencil, mixing the bright yellow orange with the white. And it turns out well. I like it. I want to bring in some of the black that's also in the journal card, so I'm just taking the black acrylic paint, adding a little water to it. I have a fan brush here, and I'm just going to splatter paint on both pages. I like to have the long splatters, kind of like you sling it, so that's what I'm doing here, because I really like the way the long splatters give extra dimension to it. I like the little tiny ones too, but I think the combination of the two I really like. I've decided to add a little bit more of the journal card to this page. So again, I'm just going to use my glue stick and put on this piece that kind of looks like, my grandson said it looks like a big eye, but I liked it, so I'm going to put that piece down. And it already has splatters on it from when I did the journal card to begin with, so I don't have to do any of that. But I do feel like it needs some words, so I'm adding a little saying here. I've cut it into 3 pieces, and I'm going to glue it down with my art glitter glue. At this point, with all of the paint and different things on my page, I'm not really trusting my glue stick. I don't know what made me think this would be a good idea, but I decided to dip each of the words into the black acrylic just to give it an outline. Smart thing to do would have been to glue them down and then maybe trace around them with some watercolor pencils or even just black gel pen to make them stand out. The dipping them in the black acrylic was definitely not the smartest thing I've done, and I'm sure when you saw me doing it, you're probably hollering, that's not going to work. Well, it didn't work. My words, of course, it got all my words, made them bleed together, and I ended up having to trace around the middle word with a gel pen to make it look right. But again, this art journal is mine. I'm not selling it, so I guess live and learn, right? So like I said, I smudged the middle word, and I'm attempting to correct it with the gel pen. It doesn't look great. I'm not sure you can see it, but it says, life is tough, but so are you. And I felt like that kind of defined a lot of things that are happening in the world and to all of us. We do the best we can, and this art journal is my outlet, creative outlet, if you will. I don't know how creative it is, but I enjoy it, and it's relaxing. And I am happy with how this piece turned out, even though I smudged the dickens out of that word, but I fixed it to my liking, so I'm happy with the progress so far. I think I want to add a little bit more to the smaller side. So I have some of these fancy borders from Carrie's Mixed Media. I'll put that up on the screen. She actually has a tutorial on how to make them. It's so much easier just to use hers. She has an Etsy shop. I'm not sure if these are in that shop or on her Patreon account. Either way, they're definitely worth checking out. I use them a lot. They're really, really pretty and bright, and so much easier than me trying to create them myself. So I'm going to add one more little piece to the right side, the smaller page. This is a piece from the Art by Marlene Essentials book. It's just a little die-cut feather. So before I do that, I'm going to trim off the ends of the border, the fancy border that I glued on. I glued it a little long so I could make sure and cover the whole side. I'm just going to glue this little feather on with my art glitter glue, art glitter glue. I should be done at this point, but of course I can't quit picking at it, so I've decided I'm going to make some random marks. I end up using my gel pen and just kind of do some scribbles, which turns out they actually looked pretty good. Whenever I was showing the finished piece to my grandson, that was the part that he actually pointed out that he really liked, was these scribbles. So I think I'm finally done and happy with the piece. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and maybe got a little bit of inspiration from it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And hopefully this wasn't too painful. If you would like to see more videos like this, please leave me a comment below. And thanks again for stopping by. I'll see you next time. Bye.